Hello and welcome to the Ignoramus Polymath. Today is episode 4 and we're going to be talking about factors that may shift the demand curve. So if you've heard my last episode where we talked about demand curves, you'll realize that I kept referring to these things called non-price factors that may shift the demand curve. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about today in this episode. So what exactly are the factors, right? So let's see. There are six factors, at least that's how many factors that exist from the book that I'm following, and they are advertising, income, fashion and taste, price of substitute goods, price of complementary goods, and demographic changes. So that's six. Let's see why exactly advertising is a factor that may shift the demand curve, right? So it goes as such. That means that there are so many products, right? There are so many goods and services that exist in the market, and at one point you just, I don't know, maybe lose track of how many products or goods and services there are in the market. So advertisement is sort of a way through which you can constantly keep reminding um, your consumers that we exist and this is the product that you want, so you better buy it. So that's why we generally understand that good advertisement and more advertisement usually will result in increasing demand. So that means that the demand curve shifts to the right as advertising increases. On the other hand, if you do not really have any advertisement, it may reduce demand, but in general, it usually just means the demand curve stays where it is, but it may also mean that it reduces. But if you don't really advertise your product, in terms of advertising, there is no possibility that the demand curve shifts to the right because, well, no, because it doesn't work that way. So that's advertising for you. So in general, when we mean that it shifts to the right, we mean that demand for that product increases at every particular price, and that really, what that really means is that people want it more. It just means that there are more people who can buy it, there are more people who can afford it, and just it increases. So now let's look at the second one, which is income. So before we move to income, we need to understand what exactly we mean by disposable income, which is exactly what we mean by income in general. So, here at least. So, here we mean that income that is available to someone over a period of time to spend. It includes state benefits but excludes direct taxes. So, that was the bookish time. In general, what we really mean by disposable income is that it's the money that is left after you've paid all of your taxes. So that's how much you can really spend. Not like there is another term, I forgot the word, I think it's discretionary income, which means that that's how much money you have left after you've paid for everything that you need on a monthly basis or however basis that you get your income in. But disposable income means however much money you have left after you've paid all of your taxes. So that's how much you can actually spend for your own purposes. So here we have two, here we understand and we will see that there are two different kinds of goods. The first one is inferior goods, the other is normal goods. So the difference between inferior goods is that for inferior goods, there is an inverse relationship with income. That is, if income decreases, the well demand for inferior goods decreases, and if your income increases, it means that your demand for normal goods increases. So for normal goods there is a proportional relationship with income. So I will explain to you how we get to that. So let's understand why exactly this works, right? So when you have income, when your income increases, people in general have more disposable income. If you have more disposable income, it means you can spend more money in more things. So as a result, they can and they will spend more. And that's why we understand that demand increases because now you have more ability to pay. There are more people who have the ability to pay. So there are some people who have there are some people who now have the ability to pay for particular goods and services, and there are people who have more ability to pay. So I think I said the same thing, but what I'm really trying to say is that there is a few people who now have enough income that they have the ability to pay for a particular product, and then you have more people, other people who used to be able to pay before, but now they can pay more. If I was to be able to buy, I don't know, zero Snickers, which is like the chocolate thing. So if I was like, I don't know, I didn't have enough money before, so I couldn't really buy any at all. And then there was someone else, like, I don't know, someone else, person X, who used to be able to buy two Snickers every month. So two Snickers every month because, well, they're more rich than I am because, wow, they can have Snickers. So then imagine that now income increases for both of us. So in general, income in society increases. So now I have the ability to buy one sneaker. That means, yay, I can buy one sneaker. But consider the other person X, he also has more income. So now the fact that they used to be able to afford two sneakers a month, now they may be able to afford four sneakers a month, or who knows, five, based on how much their income increases. So that means that sneaker, that not only shows that as income increases, I can buy more, it also shows that sneaker is, well, it's a normal good. So that means that as income increases, I don't know. Yeah, as income increases, the demand for it also increases. So there is a proportional relationship with income, right? But on the other hand, there are inferior goods. Now, I don't really have any particular examples for inferior goods, but it usually, according to the book that I'm following, it says that these could be supermarkets' own brands, which are usually like not the brands that you'd buy. So, inferior goods are usually the things that you usually buy when you don't have enough money, and then as your income increases, you stop buying them. So, it could be something as simple as, I don't know, maybe you used to buy low quality bread loaves, and now that you have more money, so you buy like some sort of like really expensive product, expensive brand uh, bread loaves, and you stop buying that old um, cheap bread loaf. So that bread loaf that you buy, which like maybe the supermarket grades by themselves in order to make cheaper versions available, maybe that is an inferior good because, well, people stop buying it as their income increases, so that for that demand decreases as your income increases. But the normal goods like the Snickers that I mentioned, maybe for that, income increases, your demand for that will also increase because now you have more disposable income to actually pay for them and pay for more of them. So yeah, that's income for you. Let's talk about fashion and taste. So fashion and taste, right? This is pretty self-explanatory, but here it means something like when you have, I don't know, some hype for something, right? So there's like something new coming out, like there's some movie coming out, like, I don't know, Fast and Furious 12, because they keep releasing movies all the time, and well, every time is the last time for them. So maybe there's like Fast and Furious 12 or 13 coming out, and I don't know, they make all this sort of hype for the movies, and everyone wants to buy it. So when the movie releases, everyone buys like the tickets for the movie. But then somehow you just realize that maybe it wasn't as good of a movie, and then people post reviews about it, and then demand for the decreases. So that means that it like there was a hype for it and people bought it. That's why there are some things which have like, according to fashion and taste, there are some things which only have demand for a particular amount of time. It could also mean, I don't know, fashion brands, for example, clothing and fashion. So maybe there's like some particular clothes or something that usually nowadays there is a lot of new clothing that suddenly becomes very much of a hype because, well, people are wearing them, and then there are celebrities wearing them. So in those cases they increase, right? And in some other cases you see that um as quickly as the demand for it increases, the demand also decreases. So in those cases, you can see that the demand increases for a while. So the demand curve shifts to the right, and then there are more people who want to buy it, and they also can buy it because, well, that's the fashion right now. And then suddenly it also shifts to the left because some people don't want to buy it. And it also works in sorts of like timing, right? So maybe back in the days in 1980s, there was like some sort of really old computer. I don't really know the names of computers from back then, but like maybe there was some new computer, brand new computer that Microsoft released back in those days, and maybe it was the really amazing thing back then, right? It was the computer back then. But now you don't really want it because, well, it's just not its time anymore. Nobody really wants it anymore. So that can also mean that that is more about product quality, and but it also means that people have different tastes. So as technology increases, as there are more better technology available, you stop really wanting to buy those older versions, right? So it could be something like, I don't know, those old black and white televisions that you could be able to watch the television, and now nobody really wants them because, well, they're old fashioned. So those are the things that we mean when we talk about fashion and taste. So the next factor is the price of substitute goods. So it means that, well, if the price of your substitute good decreases, it means that more people will be willing to buy your substitute goods. So what exactly do we mean by substitute goods? So in general, it could mean something like, some people would mention tea and coffee. Although if you are a regular coffee lover, as I am, you'd understand that tea and coffee are definitely not substitutes to each other. It means that no matter how much expensive coffee becomes, you'd never be like, okay, I'll just get some tea. So, or if you're a tea lover, you'd never be like, okay, so since tea has become expensive, or maybe since coffee price has reduced, I'll just get some coffee instead of getting myself some tea. It doesn't work that way, but it helps to understand what exactly we mean by different substitutes to one another. So, as I mentioned in my older episodes, and I will mention again, my graphics card, you have, say, for example, Zotac graphics card, and then you have AMD graphics cards, and then you have some other brand graphics cards. They're pretty much substitutes to each other. And if the price for one decreases, it means that the demand for your product will decrease as well, and that product's demand will increase. Why does this happen? If you really think about it, it means that, okay, so if we even consider the idea of tea and coffee, say for example, coffee has a price of, well, I don't know however much the unit is, but say for example the price of coffee is 10, and the price of tea is also 10 maybe. So let's say the price of tea goes from 10 to 8. Now more people can buy tea and more people have demand for tea, and since more people are buying tea, less people will be buying coffee. So that shows that your demand for coffee decreases. So that means that shifts, demand curve shifts to the left, and demand curve for tea shifts to the right because, well, more people are willing to buy it and more people have the ability to buy it because it's cheaper now. But on the other hand, if the price of tea increased to 12 and your price for coffee remained the same, regardless of what happened to your price, since the price of tea increased, that means some tea lovers, I don't know, maybe thought that, okay, maybe it's time for me to shift to coffee because it's cheaper. So let's just get some coffee and let's just not drink tea anymore. That means that more people are going to buy coffee. So coffee demand curve shifts to the right, and for tea demand curve shifts to the left because, well, less people are willing to buy it. But now let's look at the next factor, which is the second last factor, which is the price of complementary goods. The price of complementary goods are pretty much understandable. It's if you understand what complementary goods mean. So complementary goods are goods that are bought with each other. So if you are to buy a car, you definitely have to buy petrol to be able to run it. If you, I don't know, again, if you buy a graphics card, you can just buy a graphics card. You'll have to buy the entire PC setup. So yeah, let's look at those two examples, right? So if the price of cars increase, well, people will generally obviously be less willing to buy, well, cars. But let's say that the price of petrol increases. You might think that, well, okay, so petrol increase, but if you're a new person about to buy a car, you'll realize that, okay, so you have to look at the other expenditures that you have to make besides, well, just driving the car. So now you see that, okay, so the price of petrol has increased, so that means I may not be able to afford it on a monthly basis. That means I will have to pay too much for petrol. So then you'll be like, okay, so let's not buy the car. So in that case, the demand for cars also decreases because its complementary good, which is petrol, increased, right? So because the price of petrol increased, you'll be less willing to buy cars because that's a complementary good. So basically, it's like a package that you have to buy together. And since the price of one item in the package increases, well, you do not want to buy the package at all. You do not want to buy the car because, well, alongside it you have to pay for the petrol. So, and if you have to, say for example, computers, right? If I was to buy a graphics card, and say for example, I don't know, alongside the graphics card there you have to buy a motherboard as well and some other things. So maybe the motherboard industry just is going through some problems and the price increased in that particular sector, right? So my motherboard manufacturers suddenly are unable to pay, unable to produce as many motherboards, so the price of it increases, and then you realize that, okay, since the motherboard is really expensive, I may not be able to buy the computer at all because, well, it's a package, right? You have to buy the entire thing, or not buy the entire thing together, but they come with each other, they support each other, they're complementary to each other, and you are not able to afford the motherboard. So then you realize, okay, I'll just not buy the computer at all. I'll maybe just get a cheap laptop, which I can get, right? So in those cases, the demand curve shifts to the left if the price of complementary goods increase, meaning that if you are, say for example, I don't know, the car manufacturer, and you are looking at your demand curve for your cars, you'll realize that your demand curve shifts to the left if the price of petrol increases because less people are willing to buy it. And if the price of petrol decreases, you will realize that more people are willing to buy it, so it shifts to the right. So, and then now look at the final one, which is changes in demography. And this is pretty much self-explanatory. As more people are, as time passes, the population increases, and as the population increases, more people are there to buy your goods and services. So that's one thing, since population is increasing. But there are other things that you also have to consider, like for example, ages of people, gender, ethnicity, and geography. So in these cases, what you can see is that as time passes, maybe less there are, like, the population growth has decreased, so there are more people in the age, older age bar, and lesser people in like the middle age bar. So maybe in those cases the demand for particular things that cater to old people, such as, I don't know, maybe old homes or nursing houses, will increase because, well, there are more old people. And in some cases, well, the demand for young people will decrease because, well, there are less young people in the market, although it's not that much of a big change, but it may create changes in the demand curves, right? It may shift it to the left or the right. And there are also other things such as gender. Maybe if there are more females in the country or in the market, it may mean that there may be more demand for female clothing. And there are also other things such as ethnicity. So maybe in some countries, there you have more ethnic people, so you will have demand for more ethnic items, such as, well, maybe in Bangladesh, for example, you have more Chakma people who are coming to the city. So the market means that there are in the market there are more in the market in Dhaka. There are more Chakma people, for example, and that could mean that there is a greater demand for particular Chakma cuisine. So that is also something that creates a change, right? So that means that the demand curve for Chakma food and Chakma cuisine will shift to the right. And then it also depends on geography and where you are and what are the things that are available to you. So, and what kind of people that exist in the particular demography. So I think that's it. So we've learned about the different factors, which are advertising, income, fashion and taste, price of substitute goods, price of complementary goods, and demographic changes. So I guess that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and I wish you all the best in your journey of gathering knowledge. Thank you.